Hey, everybody. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Moshe Mendlowitz and Chris Beer from Best Mechanical Services, a sprinkler and plumbing company headquartered in Brooklyn, New York, whose services encompass the entire project lifecycle from conception to design to installation. Thanks for your time today and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So I'm going to hop right in. So April, my producer, did some pre-research here. And one of the interesting things that came up was, Moshe, you asked Chris to be your integrator and she said no.
Yeah, she was doing what she's used to doing when she was younger.
Yeah.
But so I started off with, I reached out to one of an EOS implementer, integrator, fractional integrator. And at the time, I was also in communication with Culture Index, one of the Samit, I forgot his last name, but from someone from Culture Index. And they were like, they all were taking assessments one after the other. And Chris was the only match who he said it was a good match for me.
Right.
And so I reached out to her and she was like, want to be my integrator? She's like, nah, I have some other stuff going on right now. I can't. So, and I continued looking for a month or two, maybe 3 months later, reach out there, look, we got to talk. She didn't want to talk to me. He said, we got to talk. We're going to speak and that's what's going to happen. So, okay, fine. We got into a Zoom and from there on, it was just smooth. I mean, we clicked right away. It was super chemistry from the beginning. And this is now a year later now.
Wow. So, all right. So Moshe, from your perspective, you saw right fit in terms of the Culture Index profile. So you wanted right fit. You weren't willing to take somebody that wasn't. So a lot of persistence on your part. So Chris, what was going on in your world that made you say no and kind of really give him the stiff arm in terms of even having a conversation?
Well, one, I'm really glad that Moshe kind of slid into my LinkedIn DM and gave me that opportunity to get to know him. But at the same time, I was kind of wrapping my head around how am I going to pull this off by one, serving him fractionally and then remotely. And it was just something that I wasn't sure that I could do at the time. But once we connected and spoke, I definitely knew it was the right fit.
So at that point, had you done a fractional integration before or not? Was that your first one?
It was, but I'm sorry, I had done one before, but it was with a company that was in software. It was a different, different subject matter. And I didn't have any experience with plumbing and wasn't sure if this was something that I could do well, but I did know EOS tools inside and out. And that's what I could bring to the company.
So let's kind of crack that open because there's a lot of things going on for our listeners. So Chris is a fractional integrator. Mm-hmm. Okay. So really what that means is that she's not engaged full time. She's there less than, 5 days a week or, whatever you want to consider full time. And in this instance, she's also engaged remotely. So Chris, physically, you're located where?
Chicago.
And Moshe, you're in Brooklyn. So you got that kind of thing going on. So let's break a couple of different things apart in terms of what that looks like, how it works. So number one, you're familiar with EOS tools. You mentioned that, but talk about how you work with an EOS implementer.
Sure thing. So I have a very different skill set than an EOS implementer. So while an implementer is leading this, the rollout of the EOS tools, teaching the EOS tools and gathering teams together on a quarterly basis to identify these are our goals and these are the steps or rocks we're going to take to get there. Right. I'm kind of the grind. I'm the day-to-day steady drumbeat of keeping those steps moving forward, keeping EOS purity, and really just carving out and modeling what that seat should look like if and when someone steps into it. Either someone internally moves up into the seat or whether they hire someone full-time for the role.
So Moshe, you've got an EOS implementer, right?
Yeah. For 4 years now.
Svi Schwartz, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And he is an absolute stud, rock star. Love him. So you're very, very fortunate, Moshe, you are. And so talk about how your EOS implementer was kind of part of the process of figuring out, hey, let's go get an integrator, even if it's a fractional integrator to start. So what did Svi tell you, Moshe, in terms of what you should do there?
So it started it started 4 years ago when I reached out to Tzvi through a mutual friend. I was struggling we were struggling so much, I can't even describe it. And I had no idea. I didn't even graduate anything. I can't even describe the levels of graduations because I didn't even go through them. So I didn't know anything about business. I know about hustling. That's all I know. So, but as my business grew, and at the time I had like 200 plus employees, I had no idea how to manage them. And obviously I was losing money just by waking up in the morning. So someone introduced me to Tzvi. He showed me the 90. I was sold because the accountability was just so glaring to me. So 1 year, 2 years, then I realized I am the special one. I'm the visionary integrator. I can do it all, of course.
Right.
And I even convinced myself reading the book, took the test, answer the questions so that I can even score good. Like I was the visionary integrator for sure. Years later, and I think in year 3, Tzvi's like, "What are you doing? Just hire a effing integrator already." And I said, "I don't know. I can't. I this or that. Whatever." We never actually did. But at some point, I realized that he kept on pushing me that I have to do it. That's when this whole thing with Sumit started, the Culture Index, and with Chris. But what I didn't know at the time, but what I do know now, and it's very important to state this, an integrator has 2 jobs. Ultimately, there's 2 major roles. There is the LMA, like keeping accountability on the leaders, and even one step below sometimes, that they're doing their jobs. And they're on track with rocks, and the scorecard is green or red. Excuse me. But that's one job. And another job is owning the business, which is like there was in the EOS conference, someone showed this, one of the keynotes had this picture up where someone is like camping or going on a tour and is like, "Oh, my integrator got it." Right? Like owning all the issues in the data, all the day-to-day. Those 2 things is
that was my keynote. I'm glad that stuck with you.
Oh,
some guy, some joker.
so that so that is, those are the 2 jobs of an integrator. A fractional integrator is going to be focused mostly on the first half, making sure, giving you structure, telling you what you need to do, a buffer for the integrator, for the visionary walking into the office. I remember walking into the office every day, coming up with a new idea, and whoever was not super busy, I stopped and explained my new idea. And like they saw me walking into the door, they all went like this, like into the computer, like, "I'm not listening to you today."
Right.
Yeah. It was just, and so today, Chris gets that pleasure, but at least it's structured. We have a separate time, 2 hours every week that we go through this stuff. And
it's the best 2 hours of the week.
True. All throughout the night, the day, anytime I message her, add this to the issues list, because I'm not even adding stuff to my own issues list. Like this is how not a follow through person I am, thinking that I was. But the point, the ultimate point was, a fractional integrator or any integrator will bring super consistency and structure to the leadership team and to everything else.
So I want to come back. Obviously, it's had a big impact on your business and your life. I want to come back to that. Before we go there, I want to kind of hear. So again, talking about this fractional integrator relationship with the EOS Implementor. So, Moshe, you talked about how Tzvi kind of helped you or sort of nudged you or shoved you or however you want to describe it to kind of, get the ball rolling and make a move. And so, Chris, as you've engaged, do you have interaction with their EOS Implementer? If you do, what does that look like?
Yes, absolutely. Because he's a trusted party who's, knows the business so intimately, and also is not in the day-to-day. So we can, while Moshe and I are in the day-to-day battles, we can sometimes, get a little bit lost from where we wanted to go with the vision, even though we may have just had that quarterly or the annual a month ago. There's a lot
Right.
that happens in the day to day that gets you off. So it's wonderful. And I happen to think that it's something that's an absolute must to have that implementer as the resource to keep this duo on track.
Love that. Love that. So let's talk about just kind of the day to day. So you're a year into this relationship, and you're remote, so you're not physically in the same place. So talk about how we talk about keeping the circles connected, right? In terms of our communication with our people at various levels. So how do you do that? How does that work? A lot of people are like, well, gee, I don't know how we can do this remotely. How do you make that work remotely? What's the key?
I think it's one, it's a striking the balance of remote and in person. I am a firm believer in doing quarterlies, annuals, and quarterly conversations in person.
Okay.
There's something to that, being face to face for that. And also just proving that you will be there. So the follow through, do what you say you're going to do. And as you come in and you prove that you are that, you're truly that buffer who is hearing and distilling what you're thinking, and then kind of protecting them from, lack of a better word, protecting them from kind of that, eruption of ideas from the visionary. You gain trust pretty quickly.
Moshe, what about from your perspective? So obviously you'd probably rather have Chris there all the time, right? But what's the key for making it work remotely where you can be comfortable knowing that she's not physically there?
So a year ago, before she started, we didn't do any remote work. We did some stuff like over COVID, at the height of COVID, we did some remote, like level 10s and stuff. But that's it. That was the only thing. And after the few months of when it was super hype, then it's all right back in person. I'm a feel, touch, see, smell type of person. But it was an adjustment, but it was a good one. So to Chris's credit, she was always there. She had this way about her to earn trust from everyone, and that's one of our core values as well. But she really exemplified that. She was there. There was never excuses. In more than that, more than the being remote and not remote, she was always available. So even though she's fractional, we didn't feel like she's fractional. We knew that Mondays and Thursdays will be the main days she's going to work for us. But Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we had to push off a meeting. It was never once in 12 months I've heard, it's not my time, not my place, not my too much time, too little time. None of that type of conversation, which really gave us the trust in people. Like a month ago, so I'm not sure if Chris told you, but we already hired a full-time integrator. So we made the transition into a full-time integrator.
So let's talk about that. So one of the patterns I see a lot is somebody, Moshe, like you, thinks they're Superman, they can do it all, and so they eventually kind of somebody nudges them or the light bulb comes on for themselves, and they're like, you know what, actually maybe I could give up this integrator seat and put somebody else in there to help. And so they do it, but they're not ready to hire somebody full time. They see the size of the investment. They're not convinced it'll work, whatever. And so they sort of dip their toe in the water with some sort of a fractional integrator to start, maybe a day, maybe sometimes less than a day. It sounds like you guys start off at a couple of days a week, and then they see it sort of proves out, and they're like, "Wow, this is helpful. This is different." And so then their appetite sort of grows, and they want more. And they move into either more days per week or hiring somebody full time. Sometimes the fractional engagement it's kind of like dating, and the relationship with that fractional integrator is very good, and they just expand that. So talk to me, Moshe, about your experience with that. When did you feel like you know what, we need more? I want more. I want somebody full time.
So it's super interesting. Because a part of our engagement was that she will leave, she will replace herself, and she will leave the position better than we found it, which there was no position before she found it. So anything she would do would be better. But
it's a layup. Yep.
but that was part of the agreement that we had. after the EOS conference, this year's EOS conference, I was so inspired in the right people, right seats, etc. Someone mentioned this guy to me. His name is Michael, and it's prior to the conference, and I told him, okay, we'll meet after. So, but when I met him after the conference for the first time, it was I wasn't really interested. He wasn't really interested. It wasn't just like his brother told my friend told us to meet, so we did that, and we started talking, and I realized because I knew the roadmap of the seat so well, because I know what Chris is doing, and I understand so much the first part of the integrator, owning the 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 responsibilities of the data, not of the day to day, of the racks, scorecards, just the consistency and the consistency of it, right? It so it was so clear to me what I need and what I have and what I need. So when I interviewed him or when I spoke to him, I realized that he would be the perfect fit for my company. And I would have never known this before. If I would have met him a year ago, I wouldn't have looked at him twice. It would have been, okay, good, nice meeting you, have a nice life. Now, because of with having an integrator and who gave me in my head, the word rack comes in, right? Because it's structured out my entire life. It's structured don't talk about this now. We'll deal this when in our same page. Like how many times in level 10 you're on a rant, stop, just stop. Like, and it completely gave us so much foundation to the company.
Yeah, a lot of times this pattern I describe it to people as it's like you sort of discover this new muscle that you've got, and you begin slowly to exercise it and then use it, and it happens not just with integrator role, but even sometimes like an assistant. Some people have never had an assistant before, and so just getting a part-time assistant and letting them do a little bit of stuff that then you find, wow, that's pretty helpful. And then it's like, okay, let me put all this stuff over there. Same thing, integrator on a much larger scale. As you exercise that muscle, Moshe, and you realize that structure and it's helpful, and you feel that, you understand what you need, what you want, and you can begin to be active and going after it. So Chris, from your perspective, people have to be thinking, well, wow, fractional integrator goes and gets an engagement. And then, basically the objective of the engagement is to work yourself out of a gig. Talk to me through the psychology and just kind of how you view that and your role in that and how that works from your side.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I see it as an opportunity because I get to go into a company that is growth minded, but they're not quite sure how to get there. And so perhaps they've tried filling the integrator seat, or they have the visionary sitting in the integrator seat, and they need someone to come in and carve out that spot and not only define what it is, but model it not only for the visionary, but for the whole organization. And once the group gets used to it, and through that time together where, we're clearly defining the accountability chart, we're right person, right seating the accountability chart, we're just bringing in all of the day-to-day use of the EOS tools, then you start to get that feeling of like, wow, these people can ride the bike without me. And it's a sad feeling, but it's also a great feeling because that they're moving on to something even better. And like Moshe said, something that they couldn't necessarily hire for a year, 12, 18 months before, because they didn't know exactly what it was. And the team perhaps wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. So all that learning and getting the context and the structure so that you can really go after what you want. So Moshe, did you ever think about, well, gee, why don't I just get Chris full time?
So we did, and she made that pretty clear that's not going to happen. She said, so I knew my persuasive personality. So when I hired her in the first place, I figured if she works out after a while, I'm going to make sure that she'll move down to New York, and she'll work for me full time. But after getting to know her so well and truly like gotten to know each other so well, I don't even want that for her. Like, that's cool. I want for her what she wants, and she's so great. A funny thing, like people I've asked me about it, and I told some people about my new hire, my integrator, and they're like, two of my friends retained Chris already. Like it's because it's super. I mean, when you have a person who's all in, right? The values match, and she doesn't hour pinch you, and she's just all in for the cause, not for the money. Obviously, compensation is there, but the value and the vision is there. That's really that's really the case here, and that's why we were so successful. It's important. There's 2 points I want to make. It's important for your fractional, anybody in an organization, even the cleaning lady, anybody. It's important for that person to have the same value. Obviously, if you're going to bring on a fractional anything, an integrated role, or fractional, not fractional, they need to have the right values, the right and the right, and they need to understand the vision, the right vision. I had a pleasure of Chris, and she did that with me and for us so much. So that's number one. Number two, back to your point, what you said, that I strengthened my muscle of letting go of the vine, which was first, we ran on EOS pure even before Chris, meaning our level 10 meetings was so pure. I was the one running everything. Pure, it was racks, it was just everything, right? Scorecards, to do's, the language. If someone said goals instead of racks, it was an issue, right?
Right.
If I can just jump in there, I remember during one of our many dates before we committed to this engagement, and you were saying, well, great, what are you going to do for me if you get here? And I said, well, I'm going to enforce EOS purity. And you're like, we are 110%. Like you cannot get more EOS pure than us. And it's true. The whole team is bought into it and really wants to move forward on the system, which is, a huge part of the success.
Chris, really what you said was, I'm going to teach you EOS tools. And I said, you're not going to. That's what you really told me. But no, we had it, but we didn't have, but now we had someone executing on all that stuff, holding people accountable, the LMA factor, which I was never going to do. But while exercising that muscle, I now am ready and understand the need for someone to come in and owning the day-to-day of the trade, building systems and processes that we have worked together for a year, putting them together, but now executing them, and etc.
Yeah. So several things I want to unpack there. So first, I think it's, I love that, Moshe, you start off from a perspective of, I'm so persuasive, I can convince anybody to do anything, right? Move here, whatever. And then you evolve to a place where you have a relationship where you really care about what's best for your partner in this. And so, you want what's best for each other. That's really cool. Chris, on your side, it's kind of the ability to say no, is a superpower of integrators a lot of times. And it's not always a no. A lot of times it's a yes, if, just to kind of, paint the picture so the visionary can kind of process and, okay, we could do it, but here's the rest of the story that sometimes they don't see as well. Really credit again to your EOS implementer, Svi, to have you guys, solid on the tools, already, very pure and bringing that all together. So that's really all powerful stuff. A couple more questions I'm curious about. So one, Chris, you mentioned in the beginning, not my industry, hadn't worked here before. So did you find that was a big obstacle? If so, how did you overcome it?
I found that it was, what do you call it? Head trash, something you tell yourself and is not necessarily the truth. And you could have two sides of having industry knowledge. One, it could get you off and running quicker, but it can also have you entering into the engagement with some biases. So what this forced me to do is ask questions and ask lots of questions. And through asking lots of questions, it's a vehicle for learning to communicate with the team, gaining trust from the team, and then also allowing the team to share what they're really good at and what they know. So no, it is something that was in my head, but I definitely got over it.
Right. I think some people are concerned that if they aren't experts in the operations, kind of the nuts and bolts of that specific industry, that the people that are there are going to be able to somehow snow them. They're going to be able to get one over on them and kind of take advantage of them because they're not aware. How did you make sure that wasn't happening?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, any business, comes down to finance, operations, marketing, sales. The basic tenets of those are the same, no matter where you go. And so knowing the basic structure in place, asking enough questions, and then, I mean, being able to sniff out BS if there is any. There wasn't any on this team, but again, just asking questions and asking clarifying questions and looking for more.
Yeah,
but on that point, I'm going to go back to my two jobs of an integrator. That is, the one job is the LMA, right? And the other job is owning the responsibilities of the day-to-day. Not knowing at a time that she will not be owning the responsibilities on the day-to-day, even though I intended for her to do so, it was just not even a possibility, right? But she came in, she understood the vision, or she learned the vision, and she bought in, had the core values, right? Had also the tools with Culture Index to be able to do the job. So it was such a seamless fit. It was the missing piece of the puzzle, where she started leading, people followed. Like, what's the one thing you need as a leader, right? You need followers. So she came in, the position was clear in the company that she was needed. So she was an upstanding citizen, right? She came in, she earned her trust, she did what she had to do. So it was a super seamless addition to the team. And then with time, it evolved that she's not a subject expert in operations or in finance or in sales and marketing. We had people in those positions, and if not, she helped filling those people. But she didn't need to know, she didn't feel the need to say, I have the answers, because she was a facilitator the entire time.
Yeah.
It was me with my team together, and she was basically facilitating, leading, managing, cutting out bullshit and stuff.
Yeah. The skill is asking questions and truly listening to the answers, right? And being able to, it's the interpersonal skill of it's not necessarily the technical content of the response, but it's everything else around that, right? You can learn a lot. So Moshe, if I'm understanding you correctly, you didn't, and you really don't have any hesitation about somebody, if they have the right skills and capabilities, bringing somebody that's not an industry expert into this kind of role. You don't think that's an issue?
No. So in a fractional sense, it's almost better that they don't have the industry knowledge.
Okay.
Because like Chris, there's so much resources that she has, right? She goes to all these type of, like, all these places where she has connection to resources. You need a finance expert, I got you. You need a operations expert, sales, marketing, whatever. So there's so many experts that she's connected to, that resources that she brought to our company. In one of them was Sunny was before that, but so many, like with Culture Index, but so many like that, like tools and crutches of stuff to help us out. So she comes with business knowledge, not necessarily industry knowledge. But I don't need her to have industry knowledge. I have the industry knowledge. My team has industry knowledge. We have 200 people with industry knowledge. We don't need the facilitator to have the industry knowledge, right? But that was again. Did I answer your question? Because
you did, and then my follow on is, so your full-time integrator that you're bringing on, Michael, are they from the industry or not?
No, also not from the industry, because now this was more of a long-term. With Michael, he is a long-term hire, so we're thinking 5-10 years minimum, and so he hits all the boxes initially. He has a ton of COO experience. Not I'm using the word COO because he never operated in a EOS ran company,
right?
But he's obviously fully on board and already read traction and rocket fuel, and we had him prior to this meeting now, we sat in the same page meeting, all three of us, because even though he's not on board, but he wants to join meetings, he's just eager to learn and eager to get his feet wet starting next month. So he'll learn the industry pretty quickly.
Right.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So you mentioned same page meetings. So we haven't talked about that. So talk to me about what your and Chris's same page meeting looks like. How often, how long, where do you do it? How does it work? You know, who drives it?
So Chris drives it. I mean, she drives everything. It's now 2 hours. It used to be an hour and a half, and we just never really done anything. One day she comes back and she says, I went to my group and I blah, blah, blah. And someone said you should do 2 hours. It was the best decision of our lives. It gives us 2 hours a week. It's the best 2 hours of the week. We discuss everything. And when I'm talking about everything, I'm talking everything. And even our own positions. Like there's nothing that doesn't go onto that issues list. So all throughout the week, we would just dump issues in there, and then we just start going. In some weeks we do 5 issues, and some weeks we do 15. It depends on what the issues are. And I think today we only did like 4. But but there's people issues, budget issues, or RPRS issues, or decisions that we need to make, comparisons. I like to have my comparisons. Everything goes in there.
Right. So Chris, Moshe said that you went to your group. What group did you go to?
Well, I'm a very active member of Integrator Mastery Forum. And so it's a group of integrators who are very dedicated to being better at what they do. And so we meet once a month virtually and once a quarter in person. And it becomes almost a supervision / therapy session. We're able to bring issues that we're coming up against. And so I brought exactly that. I said, hey, we're having these same page meetings. We're getting just into the good issues. And then it kind of stops. How can we get a little more bang for the buck? But at the same time, knowing that I am fractional. And so how do I balance time? And so just a simple tweak we made, I think just really lit that time on fire. I think it truly is, whether we're in a good mood or not, I start everyone off with, this is the best 2 hours of the week. And by the end of it, I think that we do feel that way.
I love that. Moshe, from your perspective, do you see Chris continuing to grow as an integrator? Is she better today than she was a year ago?
Oh my God. I wish I hired it today.
I'm more expensive, bro.
but you know what? I have that effect. When I started.
Yeah, you do.
When I started with SVE 4 years ago, he was cheap, and I made him expensive. And now with Chris, she was cheap. Oh, also not so cheap, but she was cheaper. And now you are expensive. But you know what? I'm happy. And the one thing I don't know like what I'm doing. I'm a visionary. I can in 2 years from now, who the hell knows what I'm going to be doing. But my point is, I keep those relationships, and it's valuable to me. And there's so much more than the relationship is so much more than what we are doing today.
Yeah, the common theme that we see again and again is growth, right? Businesses are growing and changing. Visionaries are growing and changing. Integrators got to grow and change to continue to master their craft and be able to provide that value that Moshe you're living, you're feeling, you're experiencing, and even committing farther to. So I love seeing that. So we're coming to the end of our time here. I want to give you an opportunity if somebody wants to learn more about either of you or more about your business, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Moshe, I'll let you go first.
I mean, I would say reach out to Chris. but I don't even know how someone could reach me. I guess my email or my LinkedIn somewhere. Yeah, I guess LinkedIn will be the best way. Moshe Mendlowitz, MOSH.
We'll link it in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put that in the notes. And Chris?
So my business is called Wizard of Ops, and I am very active on LinkedIn. So give me a follow there. Or connect with me, or you can also find me at wizardofops.net.
Great. And then Moshe's business, Best Mechanical Services in Brooklyn, New York. And so I have so much gratitude and appreciation for both of you, Moshe and Chris. I know that there's something that you've shared that we've talked about today that's going to help somebody, right? So they're a visionary or an integrator, or maybe they're just kind of figuring out that's what they are, wherever they are in their journey, right? It's learning those things that can help you move along a little bit faster, a little bit further, and maybe with a little less pain, right? We all go through our painful points as we
that is really one thing I admire about Moshe's so abundance mindset. And in terms of, one, helping me find my new positions, but then also helping other visionaries realize the better path to get to having a full-time integrator. And again, just helping each other through this. So I hope that people get some nuggets from this podcast and also talking to us.
That is the idea. And so, to our listeners, I want to thank you for listening. And if you have gotten some value, if there's something good here, you think this is helpful, if you'll please leave us a review, that helps other people find out about us. And hopefully we can help them a little bit. Just like Chris said, we're all trying to just kind of help each other. And I'm a huge fan of the entrepreneur, and I think that entrepreneurs make all the difference. And so if we can just kind of help move that project along for some others, that's a big deal. So to everybody out there, I really appreciate your time. And until next time, go rock it.